Not a peaceful episode at all.
Today on the show, we're taking a look at Demon Stone, Second Sight, Star Wars Battlefront. And in Versus, it's Rapala's Pro Fishing against Pro Fishing Challenge. Some of the games we look at and reviews on the run are intended for a mature audience. Please pay attention to each game's ESRB rating. Let's get the show started with a brand new action role-playing game that's developed by Stormfront Studios, published by Atari. This is called Forgotten Realms Demon Stone, and the big significant part of this game is that it's developed by the team that brought out the Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers from EA a couple of years ago.
This game is exactly like Two Towers.
It does feel familiar.
Which is not a bad thing.
Not at all.
By the way,
Not
because
at all.
Two Towers was such an amazing experience.
Well, things are a little bit different, too, in the gameplay as well. This time, you have three distinct characters that you're always in control of.
Right.
And they sometimes can pull off moves and techniques together, and there's definitely some boss fights and some different environmental things where you need each of your three allies. And then there are also moments in the game where you have to split off the group a little bit and do some solo activities and then rejoin with your allies.
So you got your fighter guy.
Right, his name is Rennick.
Or Aragorn.
Okay.
You have your magic guy,
Ilias.
Gandalf.
Right.
And then you got your stealthy hot chick.
Right, her name is Jai, and she's a half-drow, half-elf creature.
So kind of like a cross between Legolas and Gimli.
Sure. Well, what I love, too, is you can see, all of these different beautifully detailed orcs and creatures fighting
right.
all over the place.
Yeah.
And then they'll jump into the foreground. I love them climbing up over the cliff. I like all the special magic attacks and the ability to combine magic attacks.
And again, like Lord of the Rings, I hate to keep making this comparison, but you also have, if you hit the L shoulder button, you can, throw
Everybody
stuff
has
across.
range attacks and melee attacks.
Yeah.
They have special power-up things. They can also find a whole bunch of different objects out there. Like Jai will pick up the famous Ring of Jumping, which
What
allows
is that?
you to do jump.
But another cool element that they brought in the game is stealth.
Yes.
For
Universal
Jai.
symbol of stealth, right?
Yes, right there.
If you did this in Japan, they know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, basically, when you're in the shadows, guys can't see you. But it's kind of crazy because you can see the tiles on the floor where they can't see you. So the second you jump, go in the tile, they all come at you, and then you go like this, and then they can't see you.
It's very fluid animations, beautifully rendered character design.
But like the Lord of the Rings games as well, it's wave after wave after wave of enemies.
Very linear.
Your thumb is hurting you.
Lots of invisible walls in this one, though.
Well, it's the nature of the beast.
It is the nature of the beast.
The production quality is just so high.
Patrick Stewart's in the game.
And Michael Clark Duncan.
Patrick Stewart's in there,
So you got Jean-Luc Picard.
But now you bring me word they've broken free, and villagers lay ruined in their wake.
And you got
the Kingpin.
From Daredevil. And the music in this game was also quite epic. I mean, you had these chanting things going on with the choir. And again, I was waiting for the Lord of the Rings music to bust in at any second.
Two big complaints, though. It's a single-player experience, which I was a little disappointed by because the last Lord of the Rings, you could play with a friend. And because it's single-player, there's no online component, and that's also a disappointment. But still, really enjoyed this game. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10.
I'm giving it a 9. I love these games. On the positive side, the characters and the environments in this game are absolutely stunning. The gameplay and controls are really tight, and you really get a sense of an incredible, epic battle going on.
On the negative side, this game's only a one-player adventure. The gameplay, just like the Lord of the Rings games, is fairly linear. And I know it's the nature of the beast, but I still find those invisible walls and inability to move the camera a little discouraging. Stick around, we're coming right back with a brand new one from Free Radical, the guys that made Time Splitters. This one's called Second Sight.
Games. We take games seriously.
Hey, I've got a PC game here that's almost 6 years old, but you know what? It still looks fantastic. It's called Freespace 2, and it's one of those space sim shooter type games that they don't really make too much of anymore. You get to fly around in this beautiful galaxy with cosmic clouds and space dust and all kinds of explosions and meteorites and all kinds of things sort of blocking your path and in your way all the time. And of course, you get to fight all kinds of different types of fighter ships and big battle cruisers, big capital ships. Beautiful visuals in this game. They also supported 32-bit color and a pretty high resolution in there, so if you've got a swanky 3D card in your computer, you're still going to get some nice-looking graphics in here. The explosions are some of the best I've still seen in any PC game. But what really made this game so solid is that in addition to the cool combat that you get flying around in space with these ships, you also get a really detailed, interesting storyline that keeps you hooked from mission to mission. If you've been waiting for a good space shooter to come out, definitely go check this one out. It's called Freespace 2, and it is a classic game. We are back, and we are talking about a brand new game from Free Radical. We took a look at this on the GameCube, but it's also out there for the PS2 and the Xbox. It is called Second Sight, and it's another sci-power action-adventure type game.
Well, it tries to be PsyOps, and PsyOps is an incredible experience from Midway.
Right.
And this one kind of falls short. For example, like, you know, you can pick up people.
Yeah.
But you can only pick them up after they're dead. Yeah. Not like in PsyOps where you pick up a guy and he's in the air and you're shooting him and you're smacking him around the place. And then when you do pick them up and you're throwing them all over the room and throwing them into things, guess what? Absolutely no sound whatsoever.
Yeah. They did add some cool new psychic abilities that I really liked in this game. They have this one called Charm, which turns you into this sort of semi-invisible person, and you can, you know, stealth past all kinds of guards and things like that. I thought that was pretty interesting. You know, you also have this psi attack thing where you have this like ball of psychic energy that you can hurl at people.
It seemed like everything only weighs like less than a pound.
Yeah.
You know, like if you take a TV and if you walk up to it, it like slides across, or a barrel, you'll knock something over and it goes too far. It's like they had to add some weight to these objects. I mean, it's cool that you can move things around.
It sure is.
But then they just didn't do it right.
The other problems with this game is that the side powers don't come as fluidly and as easily as they do in PsyOps. So you're sitting there struggling to figure out how to do all of the things that you can do and learn the controls, and the guards keep coming up behind you and shooting you in the back, no matter how many you take out. That's my biggest new pet peeve, by the way, is the constantly regenerating bad guys that know where you are and constantly come after you and shoot you in the back. I really found it frustrating.
I'll tell you what annoyed me, my pet peeve in the game, was that, in some of these stealth games have this, is that as soon as the person sees you, like let's say you're walking around, as soon as the person turns and sees you, automatically the alarm goes off. Yeah. What is that about? You know, it's like most games, the guy sees you and then they run and try to pull the alarm. Remember in GoldenEye did that the best. I think the first game never do that.
Yeah, I like the visual look of this game. I think they do some really innovative stuff. The facial animations and stuff where the characters are reacting and they're over animated, but it looks so cool to see such huge expressions in these faces.
The way the guy's eyes move. Yeah. Some of the characters in the game during the cinematic, the way their eyes kind of like moved around was really strange because it was so real.
They did a very innovative, cool thing with the sniper rifle. Usually you zoom in and it's a whole separate angle. This time they keep your regular angle, but they have like a picture-in-picture effect of the sniper, and you can actually zoom in on the little sniper window and shoot the bad guys as they're popping up. But, you know, Second Sight is, takes second place. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10.
I'm giving it a 6.5.
On the positive side, the visuals in the game are very cool. We love the animated facial expressions. You get a nice collection of psychic abilities in this one, and we really liked how they implemented the sniper mode in this one.
On the negative side, the physics engine seems a little too touchy and the objects seem too light. The regenerating bad guys are annoying, and the fact that as soon as somebody sees you, the alarm magically goes off confused the hell out of us.
Okay, stay right where you are. When we come back, we're talking about what we think might be the best Star Wars game ever made. Hey, check this out. I found this giant Obi-Wan Kenobi statue, which is perfect because I'm talking about Star Wars Trilogy, Apprentice of the Force for the GBA. Now, what's cool about this game is it was actually developed by Ubisoft, the guys that brought us Prince of Persia and Splinter Cell for the GBA. They've taken some of that engine technology and put it into this game. Now, you only play as Luke Skywalker, but you do get to hook up and hang with some of the other Star Wars characters. Now, in addition to all the side-scrolling stuff, you also get to do some flying in this one as well. You get to pilot an X-Wing in this asteroid-style screen where you're taking care of all of these TIE fighters. I really had fun with that one. And then you'll also do things like have the trench attack where the camera will zoom in a little bit on your X-Wing. And it's a decent Star Wars game, but I have to say it's more enjoyable because it is Star Wars, and if it didn't have the license, it would probably just be a mediocre scrolling action-adventure type beat-em-up thing that we played a million times on the GBA. Even still, I had fun. I'm giving it 8 out of 10. We're back, and we are now going to be talking about a game I've been dying to play for a long time. This is Star Wars Battlefront. We looked at it on the PlayStation 2, but it's also available for the Xbox and the PC. Of course, it's from LucasArts. What did you think of Star Wars Battlefront?
I think this is one of the best Star Wars games ever made.
It's my favorite Star Wars game ever made.
I mean, when you can decide whether or not you want to get into a TIE fighter or an X-Wing, or you have options to go on a speeder bike or a ATST.
Or an AT-AT.
They pretty much took Battlefield 1942
Yes.
and put it in the Star Wars universe. But the great thing is that it's not just the last two crappy films. It's actually, you can play the first three awesome films, episodes 4, 5, and 6.
I love the ability to mix and match the different varieties of good guys and bad guys that have existed in the Star Wars universe.
And you can play the good guys or the bad guys.
It's brilliant. You're having battles that take place on Endor or Hoth or Yavin, on Kashyyyk. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Don't forget Endor.
I did say Endor.
Okay,
I said Endor.
I like Ewoks.
And you can actually shoot the Ewoks.
Well, now, see, I didn't like that. I wanted to be able to play the Ewoks.
No,
You like to shoot them.
I like shooting them, but it's kind of interesting because not only do you have like the obvious good and bad side of the conflict that's going on out there, but you also have these other third parties on some of the worlds that you fight on. So the Gungans get involved sometimes. So you can
Sand
shoot
people.
The Sand People, but you can shoot guys that look like Jar Jar Binks, which is kind of fun.
And that's great.
You can shoot the Jawas on Tatooine because they're just sitting around, they're just in the way. You can shoot the Ewoks, and you can shoot the Sand People.
Dude, you can ride Tauntauns.
There's Tauntauns on Hoth.
You can play as like a Chewbacca clone.
Yes.
You can play as a Wookiee.
All of that stuff is available in this awesome multiplayer experience that you can get online. You can have lots and lots of people playing. But there's also a terrific single-player game involved in this as well.
Right.
And in the single-player thing, you can play a historical conflict scenario where you go right from the first battles in the Star Wars universe all the way through all of the series. But what's cool is that the heroes and villains from the movies will start making guest appearances. So
You'll see Darth Vader with his lightsaber come in. Now, I gotta imagine, I don't know this or not, but I gotta imagine that there has got to be some kind of unlockable
I'm sure there is.
thing where you can play Darth Vader.
There's a couple I wish were a part of the experience. There aren't any sort of melee fighting things, so you can't really go in there with a lightsaber, which would have been awesome. And there wasn't any clan support, so you couldn't set up a little group and then have all your friends join you and keep going on through the thing.
Can I tell you the worst part about this? I have never played a game where you've actually had to pause the screen
to switch to first person.
To switch to the camera. You have to go out of the game, go into a menu, then switch to third person, come back, and guess what? By the time you come back, you're dead.
I know. This is an absolute treasure, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. 9.5 out of 10.
And I'm giving it a 9.
On the positive side, this game collects all of the major battles from all 6 Star Wars films. The visuals, especially when you consider how much chaos is going on, will blow you away. Of course, you get that rich Star Wars audio experience as part of the package.
On the negative side, although it's cool to switch perspectives, I didn't like having to pause the game in order to go into different modes. I would have loved to have seen more hand-to-hand combat, and where were the lightsabers? And it's cool that we see some of our old classic characters like Darth Vader and the gang, but I wanted to be able to play them.
All right, in today's hardware, we have something brand new for the Game Boy Advance. This is the Game Boy Advance wireless adapter.
That's right.
Basically, what this does, it allows your Game Boy Advances to talk to each other without having to plug in that wire connector.
And that's pretty much it. Hope you liked it. Next review. It works up to about a 10-foot radius.
Right.
And you can also see it also has a signal strength on there as well.
Right.
To find out if you're, weak or strong. So you can kind of, wiggle around and figure out where within that 10 feet radius you should be standing.
Right, and the list of games that work with the device isn't super huge yet. It actually can't work with every linked, capable Game Boy Advance game out there, but it's getting bigger. Of course, it comes as a pack-in with the new Pokemon games, Pokemon Fire Red and Pokemon Leaf Green. Costs about $20 US for the device, but I think it's a pretty neat device, and I'm going to recommend it for GBA players out there.
I recommend it for people who like to play multiplayer games.
Right.
So obviously,
well, not everybody owns a Game Boy Advance, so I wouldn't
true as
recommend
well.
to those people.
Right. I wouldn't recommend to those people, or the people who just use their Game Boy Advance for a personal system like myself, and who don't play other people.
Don't have any friends.
True.
Right.
True.
Okay.
Just you.
But you're going to recommend it.
Lucky me.
On the positive side, the price point of $20 isn't too bad for wireless connectivity. It's great that this is a pack-in with the two new Pokemon games. And the ability to play multiplayer GBA games without being tethered to other people is definitely a good thing.
On the negative side, it only works to about 10 feet. So if you're in Arkansas and you're trying to play your friend in Kentucky, ain't gonna happen. And it's not 100% compatible with every GBA game out there.
All right, don't move a muscle. We're telling you the biggest versus we've ever had is coming up after the break. It's two fishing games going head-to-head. It's 5 of our favorite racing games. Coming in at number 1 is Burnout 3 Takedown. Number 2, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2. Number 3, Need for Speed Underground. Number 4, Mario Kart Double Dash. And coming in at number 5 is Midnight Club 2. All right, we've got the verses of a century right here for you guys. This is Rapala's Pro Fishing, which is available for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, PC. There's also a Game Boy Advance version, against Atlas's Pro Fishing Challenge, which is out for the Xbox. What did you think of the graphics for these two fishing behemoths?
I like Rapala's better because they have underwater cam.
So you can see the fish.
Which I was completely disappointed the other game didn't have.
Yes.
But the great thing about it, though, is when you're in underwater, they have floating fish poop.
They do.
And to me, it's all about, if you're going to have a fish game, you have to have floating fish poop.
I like the reflection stuff in
The reflection.
Pro Fishing Challenge was really nice.
The reflection off the water with the sun,
cool.
and you get glare. You literally get glare. You're like, oh.
And they have it, of course, it's different times of day as well, because you'll start fishing in the early morning, and if you're out there all day long, it'll turn to daylight.
But to be honest,
the characters
were well, Jenna's ass.
Jenna's ass. But the characters themselves.
The characters both sucked in both games.
Yes.
But I thought the fish in Rapala's looked better.
Right.
And if you're going to do a fishing game, the characters...
Better damn sure bring some good-looking fishes with you.
You better bring some good fishies to the table.
She's got it. She's got it. Set the hook.
Visually?
I give it to Rapala's Pro Fishing.
All right, okay.
Over the other Pro Fishing.
All right, okay. I agree with you, too. Rapala's looks better. On the audio side, how do you think these two stacked up?
Well, again, hands down, Rapala gets the nod, and I'll tell you why. The music in Rapala is kind of laid back, soothing. That's what you want to hear when you're fishing, right?
You also get a guide in Rapala, which is annoying.
Voiceover.
But he's there with you, and it's not quite as bone-dry boring as the other game where you're just listening to crickets and the water go blip, 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 blip.
Right.
That's all you get, and maybe some engine sound.
But I loved when you cast and when you're pulling it in, when you're reeling it in. Rapala's did it very well. It was in the Atlas game. You can barely hear I think they went more realistic, but the annoying thing though was that they played like hard rock guitar music.
Yeah, it's true.
You know what I'm saying though? It just seemed out of place.
Yes, I agree with you. I thought definitely overall the audio in Rapala's is much better. Okay, gameplay-wise, How do these two fishing games stack up? I know you're all waiting to find
Well,
out.
first of all, what I can't figure out is why doesn't somebody do, if you're going to do a fishing game, can I like hunt shark?
Right.
Or like marlins or
Yes.
something like exciting? Why do I have to deal with like ugly bass? Although there is a fish in both these games.
Right.
Crappie.
Yes,
You catch crappies.
you do catch crappies.
Did you have you ever caught the crappies?
Only in the game.
Speaking of crappies,
Yes.
there's this lure called a floater.
Yes.
Now, last time I checked, isn't floater like that's something you do when you're a kid in the bathtub,
That has
right?
something to do with the crappies. I think that the Atlas game is a lot more about just adhering to realism.
There's no cam. That's the biggest problem
Yeah.
is there's no underwater cam.
It's very
so
realistic.
when you're fishing, you're just sitting there. You're not watching it. And the fun part about a fishing game is kind of seeing the fish kind of grab your thing. But that's also the biggest problem in Rapala.
Right.
Is the fact that the underwater cam is focused on the lure pretty much the entire time.
You can rotate the camera left or right around the lure.
Why couldn't they pop it out about 10 feet
But that's
so
it.
I could actually see the fish? Now, when a fish starts to come, they kind of switch to the fish camera
Yeah.
and then switch back again. It's like, well, where's the fish coming from?
Right.
What direction
But
is
you
it
know what?
coming from?
That-
It's ridiculous.
I totally
The
agree.
Sega games
but
are way better.
But it's kind of what fishing is like, because you don't know where the fish is when you're fishing.
But you're going to make a game.
Your
about
point
this,
is
you know?
correct.
It's
Yes,
like,
this
let's
is a
make
video
crochet game, but then just show one
You're not
angle.
making me review a crochet game.
You never know.
I had a little bit of fun playing Rapalas.
Yeah.
The Pro Fishing Challenge got really boring. The only real fun you have in that game is that fight with the fish. It's very dramatic, but when you pull out a 1-pound little tiny sardine,
And you hear rock music and
Yeah.
the guy's going, yeah!
it
It's
kind
kind
of
of
loses. its-
weird. Gameplay-wise goes to Rapala.
Mine as well. Rapala wins. All right, overall,
Yes.
I think this is a no-brainer.
Well, okay.
Rapala's Pro Fishing.
I'm giving Rapala's Pro Fishing a 5.5.
I'm going to give it a 6. What are you going to give Pro Fishing Challenge?
Pro Fishing Challenge gets a 4.
I'm giving that a 4 as well. So there you have it. If you're looking for some fishing fun for your console or your PC, you might want to go check out Rapala's Pro Fishing.
Or I'd just recommend spending that money that you would have spent on the game
Yeah.
and go buy a fishing pole.
Right.
And then do it yourself.
Me too.
Today on the show, we looked at Demon's Stone. We love the characters and the environments in this game. They're stunning, but it's only a solo player adventure. Second Sight. You know, psychic abilities in video games are always fun, but we really couldn't stand those regenerating bad guys. They drove us crazy. Star Wars Battlefront. The battles are beautifully chaotic and epic-sized in this game, but it would have been really cool if we could have used lightsabers. In Versus, it was two fishing games going head-to-head. It was Rapala's Pro Fishing, which has some pretty decent graphics and audio and an underwater camera, against Pro Fishing Challenge, which has huge lakes to explore, but it's a pretty boring game. In the end, it was no contest. We like Rapala's Pro Fishing better.
The fact that when you bang guys around, they make no sound makes no sense forever.